It was only ever supposed to be a 3-hour tour, but for the survivors of SS Minnow's shipwreck on a deserted, uncharted island somewhere in the tropics after a monstrous storm, it became an adventure of a lifetime. Gilligan's Island, created by television legend Sherwood Schwartz, the genius behind a certain Brady family we all know and love, is the story of 7 unfortunate castaways on a beautiful island in the middle of nowhere. We have the sexy Southern belle Mary Ann and the voluptuous Ginger as the show's primary eye candy. Then we have the Howell couple, a set of well-to-do socialites who are always looking down their noses in a pompous fashion, a brainiac scientist known as the Professor, the Minnow's domineering captain, and last but certainly not least, the beloved yet buffoon-like Gilligan. Gilligan had a heart of gold, but a nose that somehow always got him into trouble. He was the epitome of the expression, "curiosity killed the cat." In many ways, he was a younger Barney Fife. Despite the show's endless stream of guest stars who somehow managed to just drop in on their vacant island, they never managed to ever find their way to rescue. But where in the world were they really? They couldn't have been too far off the map. Like we already mentioned, it was only supposed to be a 3-hour tour. There's no way they could have drifted that far in such a short window of time. And besides, thanks to their transistor radio the Professor somehow was able to save, they do occasionally pick up some radio transmissions. So let's get to the bottom of the mystery and find out just where Gilligan's notorious island really was. Methinks the Professor might have been informed to some secret intel no one was privy to. Facts First presents, the Professor revealed the Gilligan's Island location. Stick around until the end of the video to learn the truth about where Gilligan and his ill-mixed band of peers truly spent their days in the sun. It's probably a lot further away than you expected them to wash up. But first, do us a little favor by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. If you turn on notifications by tapping the bell icon, you'll always stay in the know about when we post another exciting video. Let's do a little bit of sleuthing. The whole debacle would be a lot simpler to decode if they had Google Maps and GPS back then. But alas, the US government wouldn't develop a global positioning system until 1973, and still yet it wouldn't be available for the general public's use for another decade. Gilligan, why couldn't you have waited a couple decades to take your ill-fated tour? Another piece of information that blurs the lines and makes this whole matter more complicated is that the show itself gives 2 completely different sets of latitude and longitude coordinates in its first season. The first set of coordinates. In episode 18 of the first season, X Marks the Spot, the befuddled island clan received a transmission that announces the island is going to be ground zero target of a nuclear missile test conducted by the Pentagon. On this radio broadcast, we're given a set of coordinates for the missile's imminent impact. These coordinates, however, would be another point of contention. They are 140 degrees latitude and 10 degrees longitude. Therein lies the problem. Anyone who knows anything about geography will quickly note that these are impossible coordinates. Latitude can only fall between 0 and 90 degrees, whereas longitude ranges from 0 to 180 degrees. However, we might make a quick concession by assuming these coordinates may be accidentally reversed. That isn't completely out of the realm of possibility, but let's first take a look at the second set of coordinates mentioned by the Professor. The second set. Just 3 episodes later, in an episode called Big Man on a Little Stick, a mysterious surfer falls victim to the curse of the island and finds himself and his boat washed up on its shore. The gist of the plot is that everyone tries their best to convince him to go back to Hawaii and send help, but he's much more interested in the likes of Ginger and Mary Ann. Can you blame him though? Anyway, long story short, Surfer Dude eventually leaves the island and the Professor hastily tells him to remember the coordinates of the island. He says they are 10 degrees latitude, 110 degrees longitude. That's not super helpful though, because he doesn't give any north, south, east, west directional clues to help pinpoint the location. His lazy reply may have been the reason why they never got that rescue they needed so badly. Comparing and contrasting the coordinates. Okay, so we know one thing for certain. The crew sets out on their doomed voyage from Honolulu. And if we make the assumption that they set out going north and west, we find that 10 degrees north, 140 degrees west is much closer to Hawaii than the other set of numbers. So maybe, just maybe, we're onto something. Unfortunately, if we take a look at satellite imagery, we find a whole lot of nothing at that location, just a waft of blue. A very odd place to test a missile launch indeed. Things get a lot more exciting when we look at the other set of coordinates. Admittedly, they take us much further away from Hawaii than the first set and land us somewhere a lot closer to Mexico. But if you plug the 10 degrees north, 110 degrees west coordinates into Google Maps and look at the imagery, you'll find a tiny little speck of green very close to that location. Right there sits a tiny remote island very similar to the one that Gilligan and his friends might have washed up on. Kudos for the writing team for finding finding that tiny little island ages before the advent of GPS. Sandy Key Island. But maybe the coordinates are just as washed up as the Minnow was. Let's take a peek at some clues from the show itself to see if we can figure out where the island was. Well, at least figure out where it was shot. That's got to count for something, right? So, in the first season's opening theme, we get a shot of an island out in the distance. That island is known as Sandy Key. It's also colloquially known as the most photographed island in the world. Sandy Key is only 3 miles north of Paradise Island and just a hop, skip, and a jump from Nassau, home to giant resorts and vacation rentals. Not only is this key known for serving as the backdrop for Gilligan's Island, but its ideal beauty, white sandy beaches, crystal clear blue water, and coral reefs have brought the likes of countless fashion photographers and music video shoots. Coconut Island. So the production team of Gilligan's Island wanted us to keep constantly guessing. So in the second and third seasons, they decided to shake things up a bit. Again, in the opening sequence, we're now shown a very different island. This new island would be much larger than Sandy Key that we saw in season 1. The new island is actually called Coconut Island, a very appropriate name considering the show's subject material and the island dwellers' diet throughout the seasons. Primarily, Coconut Island is used for research purposes as it's the home to the Institute of Marine Biology. It's the perfect location for aquatic research with its serene setting, biodiversity, and coral reefs. Coconut Island is also home to a Marine Air Station that hosts Marine Corps fighter pilots. 2 sides of the island are connected by a coastal highway with rural residential development, and the other side of the island is a beach facing the open sea. Other filming locations. The pilot and the first episode of Season 1 were all filmed in Kauai, one of the most peaceful of the Hawaiian Islands. Initially, the production crew scouted various locations in Los Angeles and Catalina Island. In case you were wondering, Catalina Island is just off the coast of Long Beach, California, about 30 miles from LA. Neither location really suited the needs of the show, however, and they decided that Kauai was their island. The next episode filmed combined footage from Kauai with on-location filming at Zuma Beach, which is adjacent to Malibu. Another fun piece of trivia is that when Bob Denver and the cast and crew arrived in Hawaii in 1963 to begin production, they stayed at a resort called Coco Palms, which is the same hotel that Elvis Presley stayed in during the filming of his island classic, Blue Hawaii. Hanalei Bay. The crew would move on from Coco Palms and make their way to Hanalei Bay in Princeville. The Hanalei Plantation is where the cast and crew would stay during the production of these early episodes. It consists of several small cottages and one larger building. The production designer behind the film South Pacific actually designed the plantation. While the crew was there, they would film at a place called Moloa Bay. After the Gilligan crew used the site, however, it went through several hands, including Club Med, and even an attempt by Disney to purchase the property, but nothing ever came of it. Today, it sits empty as a vacant lot with old foundations. SS Minnow. They would never have gone out on that 3-hour tour if it weren't for the SS Minnow. The production team used 4 minnow boats in total for filming. The first would be purchased from the Honolulu harbor and would be towed to Kauai. After it arrived, the crew got to work gauging out giant holes in its hull with the help of power tools and sledgehammers. It had to look the part of a boat tossed about by the sea and wrecked on the beach. They would film the scenes where they set out from the harbor on day 1 of their voyage before running into trouble on a rental boat in the Honolulu harbor. Another boat would be rented for the episode where Gilligan attempts to repair the belt with some improvised glue made of pancake syrup. Here's another spoiler alert. The plan fails miserably. Poor Gilligan, how'd you figure that would actually work? The final minnow was seen in the opening theme for the show in the second season only, and was constructed custom for CBS Studios for the purposes of the show. The next couple of seasons' opening themes were shot at Marina del Rey in LA. Soundstage. What, you thought Gilligan's Island was exclusively filmed on location or something? It shouldn't surprise anyone that a majority of Gilligan's Island was in fact filmed in a Hollywood studio. In fact, Gilligan and company spent most of their time at CBS Radford Studio Complex in Studio City, Los Angeles. The soundstage used for the show would eventually be reused for the Mary Tyler Moore Show and Roseanne. Well, there you have it. Gilligan's real island may very well be somewhere not too far off the coast of Mexico, given the coordinates that the professor gave us, combined with some context clues. But it's also pretty fascinating to see where the cast and crew filmed the iconic show and which beaches served as the backdrop for their marooning. But before we go, one last very important question. Ginger or Marianne? Let us know in the comments who you think was the most attractive of the two. Yeah, this will probably cause a little debate, but who cares? Also, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. Tap the bell icon to turn on notifications. You wouldn't want to miss out on our exclusive videos, would you?